Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another vlog with my boy Takuya here.
Hello.
We got really good response. Thank you so much for all your comments on the first few videos we did together. That Takuya has been gracious enough. We were chatting today in my office, and it's now the end of the day on Friday, so we figured we'd make another video.
Yes, let's.
So one viewer asked us about, or asked Takuya more specifically, how do you go about getting into college when you're a high school student in Japan? What's the process? How do you what do you have to do to go to college? And so we were talking about it before we turned the camera on, and there are some interesting differences. I can only speak about America. I don't know about the UK. I don't know about Australia, but the American system, and we'll talk a little bit about the differences. So you're now a senior.
Senior.
So he's a fourth-year student. So it was a while back that he did this, but of course he still remembers. In America, and I know that, I'm sorry, I'm fanning myself, it's a little warm. In America, and I think this is still true, we basically have one big test that the entire nation takes, and that test is the SAT, Scholastic Aptitude Test, and it's basically tests two things. It tests verbal and math. So it kind of tests English, reading comprehension, etc., and then it tests your math ability. There's arguments on both sides about how, good of a benchmark this is, about your ability to function in higher education, but that's for another vlog. And basically in Japan it sounds like you have the same thing. You have a thing called the center test.
Yeah.
How do you say it in Japanese?
センター試験.
And what do you have to do to take this test?
I took English
Okay.
and Japanese
Uh-huh.
and economics and politics.
So you take subjects.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, you could take science or history or some. Okay. So it's not the same test for everyone because you decided to take those 4 subjects.
Yes.
All right. And you took those because the university that we're at now, where you're a student and I'm a teacher, you wanted to major in international relations. How do you say your major in Japanese?
国際関係.
And so they don't care really how good you are at math or science necessarily. They wanted to know how good you are at Japanese and English and these other things. Okay, so to get here to this university, you had to take this test. And what else?
Write an essay.
Okay.
And they had an interview.
And you had to come to our prefecture and have an interview. Okay. How long was the interview? 10 minutes? 20 minutes?
10 minutes.
Okay. Were you very nervous?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Interesting. So we were talking a little bit now that we're in a prefecture in the Chugoku region, and Takuya's parents don't live in this same prefecture. So I asked him, do you have to pay more money to go here? Because in America we have out-of-state tuition. Say I live in California, but I want to go to college in Colorado or Nevada or even New York. It costs more money for me because my parents don't pay taxes in those states to then go to a school in that state. And basically you said it's somewhat the same here in Japan.
Yes.
You had to pay extra money when you first entered school.
Yes, more than 10,000 yen.
Right. So that's, about $1,000, let's just say. No, not 10,000 yen. Juman. 100,000 yen.
100,000.
Right. Okay.
Sorry.
10,000 yen. There's people that know how to do yen, and they'd be like, wait, that's only $100. Right. So our university here is a prefectural university. So it's basically a public school. It's not that expensive. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fairly cheap. It's subsidized by the government. There are, of course, private schools in Japan. What's one of the most famous private schools, do you think?
Let me see. 駒沢大学.
Where's that?
In Tokyo.
Oh, it's in Tokyo.
I think.
Okay. So, but like the Harvard or the Stanford of Japan is actually a national university, what they call a national university, Todai, the Tokyo Daigaku, right? Yeah. It's one of the biggest schools or most prestigious. Like prime ministers go there and things like that, right? So there's national universities, prefectural universities, and then private schools. But the interesting thing that Takuya was telling me is unlike me, like when I applied to the University of California system, California State School, CSU system. I also applied to like Pepperdine, some private schools. I think I applied to like 4 different colleges because you want to pick your best one and you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket a lot of the time in America. But here you just applied to our school
Yes.
and you got in. But you were saying that if you didn't get in, some students will then wait a whole year
Yeah.
and take the test again.
Mm.
So if you really want to go to, say, Todai, the Tokyo University, is it the University of Tokyo? Tokyo University.
Tokyo University.
Tokyo University. And they don't get the score they need on that school's test. They have their own test, right, that you have to take. So it's different than the center test, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, I'm assuming, very difficult. So if you don't get the score you need, you can wait a whole year, and there are students, and just study, and then take it again when you're 19 and try to go. And you were saying that some students almost get in like through a recommendation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a scholarship or something, like if you're really good at a sport or really good at maybe a certain subject, a professor at your high school will recommend you to a school, and that's one way you can get in and you don't have to maybe do the interview. There's also, I was asking him, so say you don't get, 900 points on the test, but you've got great extracurricular activities, you're in the brass band, you volunteer, you're a great human being, and you said there's admissions office, which is what in Japanese?
栄養入試
Okay, and recommendation is what in Japanese?
推薦入試
Okay, so for you studying out there. Did you want to say something about that? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. And then, of course, there's the just taking the test and hoping you get enough points, which is what you did.
Sorry?
Did you take the test for our university?
Yes.
Okay.
Essay?
But you had to write an essay, and you had to do an application.
No.
No. You didn't have to say, hi, my name is Takuya, here's my address. We call that an application.
I
forgot. Okay. So yeah, so there's no, it's interesting. And we were talking about majors. Like here, the interesting thing about my university, our university, that is a little different, Takuya was telling me, from many other schools, and very different from my school, is that every student here pretty much is majoring in the same thing, right? And your major again is?
International relationships.
Which is in Japanese?
国際関係
All right. So it's like, I asked the students, you don't have to really go, if you're making small talk here at our college, you don't ever say what's your major, because everybody's majoring in the same thing. But if I ask them, what job do you want to do, especially somebody like Takuya, who's supposed to be job hunting, right? 4th year. There's a variety of answers. They want to do many different types of jobs. It's a little different than maybe America, where if you want to be a veterinarian, you go and study, animal medicine. If you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a pilot, an engineer, I wanted to be a teacher, so I went and studied, the subject that I wanted to teach, and then was going to go get my teaching license. It's a little bit more vague at our school, and there's all kinds of jobs the students seem to be trying to get now that they're graduating. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think your 4 years is prepared you to do?
Prepares to do?
Yeah. What do you think now? It's like, I have the ability, I have the knowledge.
Knowledge of what?
Yeah, I'm asking. After 4 years.
Knowledge of... Okay, knowledge of Chinese.
Okay, so he studied Chinese language.
And English.
And English, of course.
And ability of PC.
So you got better at like writing, giving
and statistics.
And statistics. Okay. So there you go. But anyway, so the question was about getting into college. And I think really high school students, they basically, when you hear about it, or when you watch J-dramas or you watch anime and they're studying, they're studying for this test. And it can either be a test from the university or the center test, right? Do some students have to take both?
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot of tests. And the center test is fairly expensive.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
is it like, did you have to travel to some big city, or could you take it at your local high school?
No, go to the big city.
Okay. So yeah, so it's a big deal, and it costs money, and it's a lot like the SATs, it would be my guess. But again, it's broken down into subject areas. So it's difficult. But the interesting thing is they don't really have a backup. I think a lot of Japanese universities, there's so few young people in Japan that, like our university, if you apply and you're anywhere near decent, you're going to get in. We really, I don't think, turn away a lot of students, especially because it's a public school. Private schools like Todai, I'm sure they say no to all kinds of people, right? Because, it wants to be selective. But you really didn't have a backup plan. You didn't apply to more than, you just applied to our school only. Yeah, and I think a lot of students, they take the test, and it's almost like, a lot of students, like, I ask them, oh, well, do you want to go to so-and-so school? And they're like, oh, I can't get in. Like, I would ask them, even in junior high school, I'd be like, oh, do you want to go to Taisha High School? And they're like, no, I can't get in. It's like they know, like, they can't pass the test.
I don't think so.
Really? Okay. So for some reason, he came out to our wilderness college out here from your big city. Okay, I think that about answers the question. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Thank you very much.
Okay. And I have to go, and so we will wrap it up here. But thanks for watching another Takuya and Jason vlog. And again, this was prompted by a comment, so leave a comment if you want to know something more about young people life in Japan, or job hunting, or anything to do with college. We would be happy to try and answer. And yeah, so when you see students and they're really, really studying, they really are studying. They're studying for an exam. That really has nothing to do with high school necessarily, although obviously, you studied politics and economics and Japanese in high school to get you ready to take the test.
Yes, exactly.
And the English test you had to take had no speaking, just writing and reading. And,
no speaking.
Yeah, no speaking on that test. But he had to come and give an interview, not obviously in English, but in Japanese, so they could know that he's not some crazy person. So, all right, well, that was it for us this time.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.